look at another concern, which is that of peace. George Orwell says in his book 1984 that war is peace and peace is war. Now, should the new students seek peace? And how should we really go about this, as it seems that in this world only sheep seek peace? Paul Tuche once said that we come here as eagles and not as doves. So what do you say about this, Duane?
Paul also said peace is not truth, didn't he? You remember that part?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll just skip over that, right? So again, what would you like to do? Do you want peace? Or is there something else you want here, Charles? I'm going to ask you.
Well, I find that this world, the way it is, the doings of this world don't really conform with peace. That one should not take it as an objective to bring peace to this world, because it is just what it is, a place of dissension with where the human consciousness reigns supreme, and where the authoritarians, the controllers, they pit one side against the other, and just seem to enjoy people knock their heads, and that gives them a leverage to control and subjugate people. Well, I think is dwelling in my own real awareness and helping other persons to do same, because I think one can know no peace until he actually recognizes his own real awareness, and from there he will get to know the essential nature of this world, and to know that in fact peace is an illusion. It's illusory to talk about peace in a warring universe. If peace is the absence of war, then it's just the absence of war, and then I don't think it's any peace, because there is no peace of mind. There may not be peace on there may be peace on the surface, no dissension, nothing, but within people, they are sitting with discontent, sitting with anger and other forms of violent emotions. So I think if one wants to really abide in lasting peace, it is to dwell in one's real awareness. That's what I think.
Well, I know that's it's very literal of you, Charles. The idea is just like you said in the beginning. You quoted Orwell's 1984. Peace is war and war is peace. All right. When you really look at it, what is it that those who are in control of this world basically announce, specify, or their speeches are about? It's like, okay, if we want peace in the world, okay, we have to destroy the bad guys. That's the basic idea, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, now you see where peace and war come in. They're like opposites. So what they do is they get people to think along the lines, and it's really a control factor. In other words, what they're doing is destroying the opposition so that they can have complete control. It's not about peace, but they use the idea of peace. So I don't state that anywhere in my writings. I don't talk about, being peaceful or whatever. Uh, Again, the sun shining. Does the sun shining make sense? I'll ask you the question. Does it? Does the sun shining make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, well, there you go. See how simple it is? And from there, you learn to see what life is. That becomes the real adventure, you see, and to take on the challenge. It's all there. That's one of the best hints around from everything that's experienced here. And I keep referring that. But again, people go into, their personal modes of being confused. You don't have to be confused. And it's not about chasing ideas. It's seeing what's taking place. It's learning to see. That's your real awareness. It's not about thinking. It's about seeing. It's not about reason and logic. It's not about morals. It's not about any of these things. What we see in the world, good, bad, or indifferent, it's because of what people keep deciding. And so again, the sun gives the hint. That's just one of the best things in this world. It's right there. Learn to see what the sun is demonstrating. And the sun shining makes sense. But how many people relate to that? They don't. And it's right there. It's there every day. Lucky us, we have a sun. There's a lot of planets that don't have suns, and it's pretty dark. And there's individuals on those planets, and a lot of them live underground. Like the Martians, they're basically underground. They don't care about the sun. They don't want to see it. They live in darkness. There's people that live on this earth in darkness, like the Greys and other aliens, etc. They like the darkness. Yeah, we're very fortunate that we have this. And once you start to see what's going on, you start to see everything, and you start to see how you create things and the fabrication of it, and etc. So again, learning to also recognize what you create to survive here with, and then learning to see how to get past all of it. But that's a decision you make. So I see the sun shining as a great example, more so than any idea that's ever been created on the earth, especially peace and all these other things. Again, love, peace, happiness, all these things, they've been maneuvered into sensations so that people are controlled. And it's not that you're going to stop having these things. No, you decide. But these are now control mechanisms. Again, when Sandy went to the seminar, all she saw is reptilians everywhere. And Harry talks about the river of light underneath the building. Well, it's a river of reptilians, etc. So the sound good words, do they make sense? But the demonstration is always available if we take the time to see it. It's nothing you're going to figure out. You cannot figure it out. There's no way. And this is where the intellects fail themselves, because again, they're going to try and create something, or they're going to look into books or history or whatever. Again, it's these people that look into history and try to prove something from history. Well, who wrote that? Who decided that? It's still in creation. It's no different than you create something right now. So yes, it's a heck of a challenge, but yet it's very simple at the same time. See?
Okay, Duane, I want to ask this question about our actions. I know wrong and right are just labels. Are just maybe what you call ideas in people's mind. But we are prone to, everyone in fact, to carry out certain actions that may be distasteful to others, that may not align themselves with the whole of life. And I don't know how we should consider such actions, that we should call them sins or what. I sometimes think that where there is no consciousness of having sinned, uh, if we have to take the religionists into consideration, and then I will say this: where there is no consciousness of sin, then there is no sin. And I think sin is only the emotional consideration of the idea that makes it so strong, and people become so concerned about it. So, where do we place our actions, Duane, that may sometimes hurt others? Of the whole of life? Are they sins? Or what label can we give them? Are they just actions or what?
Well, again, you're asking the question, Charles, and the idea of sin. Okay, again, you're in this world. You're part of this world. You're part of that. That the literal mind that works these ideas in a particular way. I'm not there. I don't do that. I see these ideas. I see them being used, but I don't relate to them in any way. So how do you relate to them? In other words, how do people you know or you relate to this idea?
Well, the way I relate to this idea is, well, I will consider actions that are maybe a little perverse, that are not uh, comfortable in the eyes of others, or some wrongdoings that some actions that may hurt others. I think I think they should just be considered actions, maybe wrong actions. I don't actually know how to call them, you know, because I know we've come from a background that is religious, and our minds have been corrupted by these kinds of words. So, but I don't actually know how to label these kinds of actions that we may um, we may carry out that hurt people. Yeah, because I don't think we're immune to that. We have a human side of us. Sometimes we have our own foibles, and uh, that get people maybe offended. So my problem is categorizing these kind of actions. I don't know how to place them.
Well, instead of just labeling things all the time, that's the sin idea, good, bad, right or wrong. Those are labels, aren't they? That's really
Yes,
that's
yeah,
it. They're
they
just
are.
labels. Yeah, all of a sudden we stick on a label, just like a product in the store. It's got a label on it. So if you're walking your dog and your dog urinates on someone's lawn, and they come out and catch you, okay, well, that's a no-no. But if a person comes up there and urinates on the lawn, well, that's something else, isn't it? That's disgusting. What's wrong with you, etc. You're a bad person. All these other things, etc. So, yeah, we all go through this social environment. That's part of the social environment, isn't it? Because the sin idea came from the church, okay, and it's to control others. It's a whole control factor. We see that, etc. And so, again, we see what animals do in nature. They don't always do everything perfect, but they're pretty much right on. As an example, insects, bees, what have you, they're doing their thing. And humans, they make decisions and they start creating these ideas that encumber themselves. Well, actually, with the collective consciousness that's been created for a long, long, long time, uh, all the people involved are all hurting each other and they don't see it. So what about that? And again, most people don't consider that because they're unconscious to it. Yes, just like the idea you brought up. If you don't have a consciousness, then supposedly it's not a sin because you don't reflect upon it accordingly. In other words, you don't feel guilty about it. So all of these little social behaviors is what they are. And yeah, we live with these. They are considerations. And this is where, just like anything, like a person that's grown up in a very poor society can barely, can barely feed themselves and their family. As an example, they strive in some way to educate themselves to better provide for themselves. But it takes time to do that. So the same idea exists here with what we're doing, and that is that as people get a real education, then they can surpass all these social behaviors that really mean nothing. They don't stay encumbered by them until eventually they shine like the sun, and they're encumbered by nothing. So the sun, again, is the example that, it's providing an example of what's possible for everyone. This is what's so cool about it. But again, you got to see it. And so most people will think with their personal mind and say, oh, I don't believe that. All of a sudden it goes to another label, a belief idea, which means what? So, yeah, it's a very interesting world we live in. So all these ideas. So again, this is why I constantly promote and create new projects and ideas that relate to the true reality life is, instead of trying to sort out any of this stuff that's already been created that only relates to a one-dimensional encasement. Yeah, there is a difference.
Hi, Duane. You said that our intellect can't help us realize and recognize the truth, the true reality. And I think I knew that because I think I totally understand the effect of our mind, our thoughts, our top lines on our feelings, our interests, and etc. And I realized that even though our intuitions can be deceiving in the other realm, in the astral realm, or other ones, they can deceive us through our intuition, through our visions. So how can I recognize the truth? Well, our intellect can't. I knew that our intellect is it is itself an obstacle for recognizing the truth, and our intuition isn't trustful, isn't trusty. And so what can I do? Sometimes I wonder, I face situations and my mind says some things, my intuition says some other things, and I don't know what to do. Which one should I listen to?
Well, there's a jumping off point. In other words, just like, what's being presented, there's a jumping off point where that's where you just have to figure it out. So, the new presentation is like a boot camp. You go through this process, until you get to that point where all of a sudden you might say you're out on your own. And this is where the real guides are, but they stand real with each other. They support each other. That becomes the difference. Just like those soldiers that went through boot camp, they all of a sudden become the new platoon or the new troop, and they go support each other for, whatever mission you might say they're on. And so it's the same with the real guides. And so this is where we have our attention on the real guides. But again, yeah, there's a lot going on, and I deal with it too. And we're talking about the deception of this world, and also on the real side, the other different levels of creation, but on the real universes. And that is that there's cloning, there's holograms, there's whatever. We deal with it. I deal with it too. Etc. Kelsey's having experiences, others are too, because this is how things have been developed, especially with the technologies. And really what it is that people's imagination has been developed to the point where they can imagine and they can, create these things in creation, etc. So, it's kind of like a person going to a psychiatrist, for assistance. At what point does the psychiatrist say, oh, you're crazy, we're going to lock you up? Really, at what point? Everybody has fantasies, everybody has this or that or ideas. It's all the same ideas. At what point is it? Well, that's the jumping off point. And yeah, that's where you have to figure it out. Just like what I'm writing, I used, Paul's books as a reference to start. But then at a certain point, it was the jumping off point. Don't use that anymore unless I want to use it as a reference to refer to something. Okay, so I will, just like we said here, Paul said this, peace is not truth or whatever. That's a reference. That's not a reality that I'm providing here with what I'm writing. No, because I like to see what's new now, what's taking place, and then from that I see it, and then I create something that refers to that accordingly. But there's always a jumping off point, and it's not to where everything can be answered. All of a sudden, I have situations with my life. Everybody does with their life. This is just how life is. It cannot all be answered. And if it is, then for the most part, a person is just led into another box. Yeah, so again, I get Social Security. Well, that's a given. But I don't want to be on Social Security forever. That's not the idea. It's a temporary thing. I see past that. But a person that wants to feel secure with the idea, well, they just want the Social Security to keep going, and they're going to make probably no effort to get past or see past that. So that's fine for them. That box that's provided is fine. So I use the little boxes too in different references, but there's always a jumping off point, and that's where you have to be real with yourself. You have to learn to recognize that, at a certain point, the questions that you're asking don't relate to anything but yourself and you figuring it out.
So it means that we don't have any specific ways, and it is just only experience with the new you and the guides, so we can realize what's true, so we can recognize the truth. There is no specific way. Is it true?
It's very simple, young man. When you look at the whole of life and you look at creation, all right, to sum it up very simply, it all came from nothing. Just like the monetary system you're using, the money that you spend every day. Do you think that it was magically created? No, it came from nothing. It was created from nothing. Everything is. So is creation. Life is invisible overall. We are in an appearance of things because this provides us assistance to relate to something. But when you see the bigger picture, it all comes from nothing. So again, where is it that makes sense that you put your attention and figure things out from. Well, it's that nothingness that is all alive, that is real, but you have to recognize it. So this is where the mind and those questions you have cannot go. You decide to learn to see that. See?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you. Thank you for that intervention.